You mentioned during the Vine Street thing that you wanted to set a date and put back on the agenda.
Put back on the agenda.
And so the reason I'm bringing this up is I misunderstood the intention in a recent set of minutes. So do you want it?
It could be under new business. Or it could be under old business.
And you're...
It'll have to be added next time.
Discussion of Vine Street vacation.
Okay.
That was never going to be taken off the agenda.
Well, I wanted to make sure I understood because of the misunderstanding that occurred about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Are you intending to debate it at that time? Because if you're going
No.
Okay, well, you probably have to postpone it then to a time after your public hearing, rather than just keep putting it on the agenda.
Okay. I can do that. That makes some sense.
Can we close the agenda setting?
If nobody else has got anything, yes, sir.
I'd like a status report that we requested in council procedures several months ago from the city attorney on the status of ordinances and resolutions and actions presented in the council table. So we can either have a discussion of it or second.
Anybody else? Is there a second? I didn't hear a second.
Laney?
Did you? Okay. Anybody else? Well, if none other, let's see. We don't have to vote on it. City council comments, Ms. Linda.
First of all, I'd like to say that even though I felt like I was rather cut off on the deer hunt discussion, I have had people contacting me, sending me letters. There are a lot of residents of this city that feel like what they've gotten is not what they voted for. Unfortunately, I don't think that the ballot wording was right. It should have included more. And there are a lot of really worried people, and I would invite more worried people to get in touch with me. And I would also like to request that the Deer Committee show up at our next meeting so that we can ask them some questions, because I feel like every time I ask questions, I just run into walls with no answers. And these people want answers. They're worried. They're worried for their health. They're worried for their safety. They're worried for all kinds of reasons. And I just keep not getting any answers. And although some council members may think it's not a big deal, it is a big deal to these people, because this is a very small town and the houses are very close to one another. And I mean, I got a call from a woman that her property is completely surrounded and she doesn't have much room around her house, and she is very worried about what's going to happen. So I would like the committee to show up, and I would like citizens to contact me about how they feel about this, because it wasn't a huge majority of people that passed it. Thank you.
Barry.
No comment.
Mr. Reno.
No comment.
Ms. Balance.
Once again, I had the opportunity to attend the Municipal League Conference in Hot Springs, and it was the best one I've been to yet. I came away with a lot of enlightenment, a lot of information that I did not possess before. There were some very good seminars, and there were some excellent presenters. And so I appreciate the city for paying their taxes and allowing people to further their education in trying to help move this city in a healthy direction. One of the most important points I came away with was when Mr. Mark Hayes, who is one of the Municipal League's top attorneys, Mr. Hayes was giving a seminar on purchasing, bidding, best practice ideas for professional procurement. And part of his presentation had to do with where'd it go? Part of his presentation had to do with the limits on the mayor's spending authority. According to state statute 1455-204, appropriations, when appropriations is when money gets spent or money that is available to be spent. Appropriations require a majority vote of the council. In other words, before the money's spent, it's supposed to be appropriated. 1458-202 says the budget is an appropriation. So in the budget, the city council is supposed to set limits on how much each department is supposed to be able to spend. And generally speaking, that's line by line. For instance, we have a line for paying utilities for each department. We have a line for salaries or taxes and different things for each department. And each department decides, well, we'll probably need about this much money. And they probably pad it a little bit so that they make sure they have enough money. As we know, last year, the monies that had been appropriated fell far short of the monies that were actually spent. So Mr. Mark Hayes told us if the money hasn't been appropriated, it shouldn't be spent. He went so far as to tell us that if the money is not appropriated and it's spent anyway, that's against the law. And you would think that a retired law enforcement official would be concerned about staying within the limits of the law, and so it's rather distressing that some of them are not concerned with that. So anyway, if the money has not been appropriated, it should not be spent, which is exactly what our mayor did to the tune of at least $250,000 and probably closer to $500,000 last year. He spent funds that had not been appropriated. They had not been approved by the city council. And some of the members at this table said more or less, gee, Mayor, that's okay, that's fine. We'll rubber stamp it. You go right ahead and do it this year. So I want you to think about when it comes election time, who's looking out for your taxpayer dollars and who is spending your taxpayer dollars on anything on, we don't know what it was spent on. Probably most of it was for things we really needed, but we don't have any way of knowing that, and I encourage you to support people who are interested in protecting your taxpayer dollars, making sure that they're being spent on things they need to be spent on, like take a drive around the town and see how the streets are falling apart and the walls are falling down, and think about if you would like to have people helping you have your money be spent on taking care of our city. Thank you.
Mr. Pownell.
No comment.
Interesting. June the 25th through July the 20th, Opera in the Ozarks. June the 25th through July the 7th, Sigma Festival at the Auditorium. June the 29th, John Michael Talbot Retreat. July the 4th, offices are closed. July the 4th, hometown, 4th of July, 2nd through the 6th, downtown Eureka Springs. 4th of July, tentatively said is fireworks at Turpentine Creek or Holiday Island. All right. Now, I've sat here for a year and a half and listened to certain council members berate certain city employees for being inadequate, accusations of inappropriate actions as far as money is concerned. Just flat out accusing them of being a thief, basically. But then they turn around and say she did such a good job and started berating other city employees. Apparently, the council members that made these accusations don't have a clue what goes on in this city on a daily basis. And the public is more than welcome to come down and see what we do on a daily basis, because that's what we're here for. I think not last council meeting, but a couple of council meetings ago, I gave you reasons why the money was spent that we had to spend. And Ms. Lindblad doesn't have to sit there and shake her head no. Because she wasn't here, she doesn't know what we spent the money on. So we spent the money on stuff that the city needed. As Ms. Balance stated, we did need the stuff, otherwise we wouldn't have spent the money. I want to make a point very clear that council did not do a mid-year budget review last year. In fact, it was put it on the agenda in August and was taken off, deleted from the agenda in December by Ms. Balance. So at that point, it was never dealt with after that. City Council did not have a budget in place by the recommended state time. So if we want to talk about state statutes, some of the council members didn't comply with those either. Apples and oranges. So with that said, it's easy to sit and accuse people of doing wrong until you know the difference. But you actually have to get up off your tail end and come down and find out what's going on, as Mr. Parker does. He's the only one that's been down here asking questions about what's actually going on in the city. Otherwise, it's this report and that report, and I get this from this person and that person. Folks, if I make some of you mad, that's just the way it's going to be, because I'm tired of listening to all this crap that's going on here. Our city's running great. We're doing good financially. We can sit here, and this is going to go on for 6 more months until the election occurs. And then some changes will be made. You can be guaranteed of that. So it's kind of up to the council to be progressive from this point on and try to get stuff done, taken care of, or we can sit here and do the same crap we did tonight. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.